All right. I got a comment saying that last video about 15-minute cities. Well, it was about a lot of things, but 15 minutes cities was sort of the core of it. And that it was a very confusing video because the definition that I was offering was very different from the definition that this person had understood. The problem is that I didn't give a definition of what a 15-minute city is. And it's because there really isn't one clear definition of it. You gotta excuse me getting over the flu. It's also a beautiful Saturday morning in February, so the windows are open, planes, dogs barking, all of it. I'm gonna roll with it. Okay, so let's shoot for a definition of 15-minute city first, right? We can look at the Wikipedia page here. We've got most daily necessities and services such as work, shopping, education, healthcare, and leisure can be easily reached by a 15-minute walk, bike ride, or public transit ride from any point in the city. It's a tall order. Probably not undoable, but it really just depends on what you mean by city and how big that city is, right? Because if you're just talking about like Washington, D.C. As a standalone entity and ruling out the rest of the metropolitan area, then sure, that's no problem. That probably already exists in D.C., probably already exists in Boston. But as I discussed in the video, and coming from Mumford, it's only possible in those core cities because so many workers are coming into that core city every day and are really boosting the amenities that are in that place. And then on top of that, you get tourists as well who boost that even further. Okay, so that's Wiki. Jump over here to the conversation. And keep in mind a lot of this stuff is from 2021, but this article is from 2023. In this one, they say restructuring existing cities and building new urban centers to ensure the services people need for work, food, health, education, culture, and leisure are all close by, a walk or bike ride from home. So this definition covers most of the same services but leaves out transit. This is a scholarly article in Nature from 2021, and this one is saying it becomes possible for residents within given urban areas to comfortably walk or cycle to any given node within a city in a time frame not exceeding 15 minutes. So this one is essentially saying that it will only take you 15 minutes to get between these neighborhoods, between these centers of 15-minute activities, which is a taller order. If we jump over to the National League of Cities, the goal of the 15-minute city is to provide convenient and equitable access to necessities like healthcare, schools, grocery stores, jobs, and green space. Again, a lot of the same amenities within that 15-minute city. Doesn't really get into the transportation aspect, but it's understood if you read through the rest of it that they're talking about walking, cycling, and public transport. If we get over here to the UN, and this is kind of where I'm coming from, the British engineering firm, Arup, conducted a survey of 5,000 residents across 5 European capitals, London, Berlin, Paris, Milan, Madrid, in 2019, focused on the 15-minute city concept. It asked respondents how long it took them to walk or cycle to essential amenities such as parks and shops. It took Milan and Madrid residents on average 13 minutes, Paris residents 15.5 minutes, Berlin 16 minutes, London 23.5 minutes. Now, this is like the core of my last video, that these are big cities with huge employment bases in their center, and the people who live in these central cities have easy access to all of these amenities. But it's still only asking about amenities like parks and shops. It doesn't ask like, hey, where's your doctor? Where do you work? I don't know. I didn't see the survey, but it seems like there's a lot of important information missing there. There's a link here to the survey, but when you click on it, it doesn't take you to the actual survey. Like, it doesn't tell you what the questions were. It doesn't tell you what the results were. So there's no there. Also notice the disparity between London and the other cities. Let's go back to the wiki page because I think this is really instructive. You've got essentially different versions of this. Some of them start to look more like Ebenezer Howard's Garden City. Garden Cities of 130 years ago, but less practical, I think. Moreno and his 15-minute city, which is where most of this stuff originated from, Teen City Movement. Living, working, commerce, healthcare, education, and entertainment. For his 4 components: density, proximity, diversity, and digitalization. He's arguing that A fourth industrial revolution has reduced the need for commuting because of access to technology like virtual communication and online shopping. COVID changed some of those things, but they didn't change them that dramatically. There's been a pretty big return to normal. Yeah, a lot of tech workers don't have to go into the office every day or at all, but there are so many jobs that you can't do from your living room. And all those people were at work all through COVID. You know, like Amazon fulfillment centers, they're not full of robots picking boxes off of shelves. It's humans. And those humans have to get to that Amazon warehouse. You know, even if there is a future of robots where humans don't have to go to that warehouse anymore, what are those people doing? You know, are they working at cafes and restaurants? Someone has to be there until the robots are doing all of our jobs. As I pointed out in the last video, that online ordering doesn't portend the future that Moreno seems to think it does. Online shopping means less retail for everyone. It means that there are fewer things that you will be able to walk to, and that the amenities that do exist in a city will be more centralized. It's going to be harder to have a 15-minute city if things keep going the way that they have been. You know, I posted in the last video the decline in brick and mortar retail, and you know, honestly, this is it's not just retail, it's restaurants as well. They've also further centralized. And, you know, I linked to Nimesh in Los Angeles' video because he describes that phenomenon in more detail. And there's really no, like, he did a great job with it. There's no reason for me to repeat it. If you're interested, I highly recommend watching it. Larson and the 20-minute city. You know, a 20-minute city and a 15-minute city, fundamentally, they're not really that much different. Dachi and the 1 mile city, again, this is just another version of a 20-minute city, and I think this is the one that's kind of most like Howard's Garden Cities. Wang in the 15-minute walkable neighborhood. Apparently, this study was more focused on the health benefits of walking and like encouraging active transport in general. Anyway, I think defining what a 15-minute city is fine in vague terms, but when you start to get down into specifics is when things start to fall apart. It is fundamentally not possible to have most people able to access most of their work, most of their employment, entertainment, culture, all in these 15-minute pods. I mean, people move. They have families. They have partners who work in different places from where they do. You've got to pick a place to live. Different amenities have different scales. They serve like different size populations. Like I explained in the video, you can have a convenience store for every, 3,000-4,000 people. You're only going to have a supermarket for every 10,000 people, maybe 15. You're only going to have a movie theater for every 50, 60,000, like a bowling alley, a hardware store. Like all of these things serve different size populations because you don't need all of them as often. You're not going to be able to corral all of these services into these 15-minute circles, and not even most of them. Employment and entertainment and culture are two of the biggest ones. The second that you have some office space and a couple of cultural institutions and a few good restaurants right next to each other, everyone starts to show up because they want to be there. And then you're in Mumford's positive feedback loop of more people with demand for more things and demand for more transportation. That's why I'm saying that it doesn't work. Show me where this paradise exists, and I will show you the biggest, wealthiest cities in the world. And I will also show you 4 or 5 miles from the center of those cities how not only does that paradise not exist, it can't exist. You're not going to change that. And I think fundamentally all of these proponents know that it's a fad. It's something to talk about. It's something to promote your next book, your TED Talk. I mean, Gil Peñalosa was at the APA conference in September. I heard him talk about it. He was the plenary speaker. Like getting people thinking about these 3/4 mile or on foot radius or 3 mile on bike radius. It's just it's silliness. Like that's not how cities are are organized, and to try to reorganize them around that is just chaos, honestly. And if you look at, if you look at Amsterdam or you look at Copenhagen, that's as close as you're going to get to that type of life. And they're not 15-minute cities. I mean, maybe, yeah, in the center of Amsterdam, in the very center of Copenhagen. But, most Dutch people, they're commuting 25, 30 minutes to work. I don't know what the numbers are for Denmark, but I would imagine it's even a little bit longer than that. I'm a big proponent of active transport. That's what I built most of my career around. It's honestly like a waste of time and energy to follow this. People will have completely forgotten about it 6 or 7 years from now, and we'll be on to the next thing. Hopefully that's enough to fill in the gaps of whatever I left out in the last video. I might be making some heavy claims in my videos, and I don't want people to get the impression that I'm pulling this stuff out of nowhere, or that it's sort of unresearched or like a hot take. I might gloss over things from time to time, and that's generally because I think the audience either already understands it or can quickly and easily research it on their own. And it's also kind of the format, in like a 25-minute video, even in an hour, there's not enough time to go down every rabbit hole and tie up all the loose ends. Eventually I'll get to them. It's also the case that people can just disagree on these things. For 15-minute cities, I don't disagree with the policy goals. More active transport, fewer greenhouse gas emissions, fewer vehicle miles traveled. All that stuff is great, and I'm on board. What I'm trying to say is basically that the concept of like a 15-minute, everyone wherever they lived would be able to have most of their daily needs met within 15 minutes. It's just not possible for everyone. It's really only possible for the people who live in the core of a metro area. All right, I'm Jim. This is Urban Legends. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time. Hopefully I'll sound better. See ya.